Hello, my name is Tahlia Bartlem and today I will be presenting the findings of a critique on a middle primary house lesson. This lesson has been accessed through the Western Australian's Department of Education. The Australian Curriculum and Reporting Authority, or ACARA, acknowledges the importance of ensuring that there is a consistent national standard to improve learning outcomes of all young Australians. This is why there are very clear guidelines on cross-curriculum inclusion throughout all subject areas. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures is one of the main cross-curriculum priorities that is set by ACARA. With that in mind, there are several ways that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures can be embedded into every classroom. For the purpose of this critique, we will be focusing on Dr. Tyson Yunkaporta's 8 Ways of Aboriginal Learning framework. This framework is now being displayed on your screen. Dr. Yunkaporta states that these 8 simple pedagogies are merely a starting point for further dialogue, that each school engages in their own way and produces its own unique frameworks that fit best with their local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities' way of doing things. 8 Ways is a framework that allows teachers to include Indigenous perspectives by using Indigenous learning techniques. Aptly named, there are 8 different pedagogies within this framework, including story sharing, learning maps, non-verbal, symbols and images, land links, non-linear, deconstruct/reconstruct, and community links. Keeping this framework in mind, an adaptation of this learning unit has been designed. This house lesson, labelled Comparing Seasons, is set out with a purpose, key, background points, and student outcomes or learning outcomes. The lesson's purpose is to provide opportunities for students to explore the difference between European and Noongar seasons and how Noongar seasons were originally decided by food available at different times. The key background knowledge for this lesson is that European seasons are based on climatic conditions, time and dates, whereas Aboriginal people divided their year by the food available and the weather cycle. And finally, the student outcomes for this lesson is for the student to identify the differences between European and Noongar seasons and the impact that the seasons had on the Noongar way of life. The screen now displays a copy of the lesson plan for this lesson. Although it is not explicitly stated anywhere within the lesson plan, there are several clear and explicit links that are already being made to Dr. Yunkaporta's 8 Ways framework. Throughout this lesson, students are presented with the opportunity to work in a wide variety of ways, which include whole class discussions, working in pairs, working in groups, and working individually. Not only does the lesson plan focus on including strong community links, it also explicitly states contacts and has several preparation points for the lesson to include Aboriginal speakers to story share. The lesson also has strong links to both story sharing, learning maps, and non-linear pedagogies. Under Yunkaporta's 8th way of community links, every bit of knowledge that is taught to students should allow them to answer the question, what does this mean for me and my mob? This question should be able to be answered by all students in the class, not just Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. By ensuring that strong community links are made within the entirety of a lesson, students will be able to answer this question. The lesson explicitly ensures that these links are made by contacting the local Aboriginal Education Department members such as Erica Maguire and involving the school's Aboriginal staff members and AIEOs to co-teach the lesson. Although this lesson has so many clear strengths and connections to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island perspectives and pedagogies already embedded within the lesson, there is always room for improvement. We will discuss these now. The lesson is based on comparing the differences between the local Noongar seasons and that of a traditional European season. I believe that this lesson could strongly benefit from the introduction of a land links element within the orientation of a lesson. There is no story without place, and there is no place without story. So linking your lesson content to the land is one way of maintaining cultural integrity within your classroom curriculum. By inviting students to begin their lesson outside of the classroom, students can begin to make land links before the lesson even begins. So how would this look within a lesson? Land links for this lesson would work best in a school that had a vegetable or herb type garden area. Students would be able to enter this area with their teacher and one of the local co-teachers for the lesson. The co-teacher would then begin to explain the different vegetables and plants that are currently growing and relate this to how these foods are currently in season. This would allow for students to make a clear connection between the links in the land and the lesson prior to beginning any specific classroom content. Within this part of the lesson, students could also partake in an acknowledgement of country, further tying local community links and emphasising the connection of the lesson to a real-life purpose. Another modification to further improve the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives and pedagogies within this lesson could be the implementation of a yarning circle within the middle of the lesson. A yarning circle is an important process within Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture that has been used around the world for centuries to learn from a collective group, build respectful relationships, and to preserve and pass on cultural knowledge. Yarning circles are a simple way to incorporate story sharing within a lesson. There are 5 simple steps to implement a yarning circle within a classroom. Firstly, students sit in a circle and are encouraged to actively listen to others' views. Students must be aware that within the circle, everyone's views are considered equal and there is no hierarchy. Secondly, the group introduces themselves by stating their name and sharing something about themselves. Next, a focus question for the yarning circle is introduced. Then, the participants of the yarning circle share ideas and thoughts. And then finally, the group reflects on thoughts that have been shared within the yarning circle. Within this lesson plan, one of the whole class activities includes ask students to share what season their birthday falls into. This question could be something that the students share about themselves at the beginning of the lesson. They could respectively share both the European and Noongar season that their birthday falls into within the introduction of the yarning circle. The yarning circle could then focus on what students have learnt about the differences and similarities between these seasons. After the yarning circle is complete, students will be able to return to their individual work and take the information that they have learnt through story sharing to help them complete their individual mind maps. Overall, I believe that through the addition of these 2 simple modifications, this lesson would improve the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives and pedagogies and therefore create more meaning for all the students within the class. Thank you so much for your time. If you click onto the next slide, you'll be able to see my references.